Hi, my name is Manu Vasudevan from the AWS By Doing team. Welcome to this educational video series, AWS By Doing, wherein you can learn AWS Cloud Computing by following along with an AWS Certified Solutions Architect. We acknowledge and thank the official AWS documentation material, which we have used to produce this educational video. Although we will try to keep all resources consumed eligible for the free tier, ensuring that you are not charged or minimizing your charges is your responsibility. To minimize charges, remember to delete all created chargeable resources after each session. This time, we will walk you through a hands-on lab on launch 2 EC2 Apache web servers, create a target group, register the EC2s as targets to the target group, create an application load balancer, test your load balancer, delete all created resources. Estimated cost for doing this hands-on? Although creating a T2 micro EC2 instances is free tier eligible, application load balancer may incur a minimal charge. Clean up immediately after this hands-on. Prerequisite AWS skill level? Beginner with general understanding of AWS EC2 and ELB concepts. To set up a free tier eligible AWS account and a user with sufficient permissions, check out our video, Create an Admin User. To begin, fire up a browser, preferably Google Chrome, and head to aws.amazon.com. Sign in to the AWS Management Console as a user with administrator credentials. To launch an instance, open the Amazon EC2 console. From the console dashboard, choose Launch Instance. The Choose an Amazon Machine Image AMI page displays a list of basic configurations called Amazon Machine Images, or AMIs, that serve as templates for your instance. Select an HVM version of Amazon Linux 2. Notice that these AMIs are marked free tier eligible. On the Choose an Instance Type page, you can select the hardware configuration of your instance. Select the T2 Micro instance type, which is selected by default. The T2 Micro instance type is eligible for the free tier. In regions where T2 Micro is unavailable, you can use a T3 Micro instance under the free tier. Choose Next, Configure Instance Details. User data script for installing Apache on the EC2 instances. Choose Review and Launch to let the wizard complete the other configuration settings for you. On the Review Instance Launch page under Security Groups, you'll see that the wizard created and selected a security group for you. You can use this security group, or alternatively, you can select the security group that you created when getting set up using the following steps. Choose Edit Security Groups. On the Configure Security Group page, if you're creating a new security group, add a rule to allow HTTP access. On the Review Instance Launch page, choose Launch. When prompted for a key pair, select Choose an existing key pair, then select the key pair that you created when getting set up. Alternatively, you can create a new key pair. Select Create a new key pair, enter a name for the key pair, and then choose Download key pair. This is the only way you can save the private key file, so be sure to download it. Save the private key file in a safe place. You'll need to provide the name of your key pair when you launch an instance and the corresponding private key each time you connect to the instance. Don't select the Proceed without a key pair option. If you launch your instance without a key pair, then you can't connect to it. When you're ready, select the Acknowledgement checkbox and then choose Launch Instances. A confirmation page lets you know that your instance is still launching. Choose the View Instances to close the confirmation page and return to the console. On the Instances screen, you can view the status of the launch. It takes a short time for an instance to launch. When you launch an instance, its initial state is pending. After the instance starts, its state changes to running and it receives a public DNS name. If the public DNS IPv4 column is hidden, choose Show Hide Columns, the gear-shaped icon, in the top right corner of the page, and then select Public DNS IPv4. It can take a few minutes for the instance to be ready so that you can connect to it. Check that your instance has passed its status checks. You can view this information in the Status Checks column. Check if the public IPs of the instances are accessible from your browser. They are accessible. To configure your load balancer and listener, open the Amazon EC2 console. On the navigation pane, under Load Balancing, choose Load Balancers. Choose Create Load Balancer. For Application Load Balancer, choose Create. For a name, type a name for your load balancer. For example, MyALB. For Scheme, an internet-facing load balancer routes requests from clients over the internet to targets. An internal load balancer routes requests to targets using private IP addresses. For IP address type, choose IPv4 if your clients use IPv4 addresses to communicate with the load balancer, or dual stack if your clients use both IPv4 and IPv6 addresses to communicate with the load balancer. If the load balancer is an internal load balancer, you must choose IPv4. For listeners, the default is a listener that accepts HTTP traffic on port 80. You can keep the default listener settings, modify the protocol, or modify the port. Choose Add to add another listener, for example, an HTTPS listener. For availability zones, select at least 2 availability zones from your VPC. If there is one subnet for an availability zone, it is selected. If there is more than one subnet for an availability zone, select one of the subnets. You can select only one subnet per availability zone. If you enable dual stack mode for the load balancer, select subnets with associated IPv6 CIDR blocks. Choose Next, Configure Security Settings. Configure security settings for an HTTPS listener. If you created an HTTPS listener in the previous step, configure the required security settings. Otherwise, go to the next page in the wizard. To configure a security group for your load balancer, choose Create a new security group. Type a name and description for the security group or keep the default name and description. This new security group contains a rule that allows traffic to the port that you selected for your load balancer on the Configure Load Balancer page. Choose Next, Configure Routing. To configure your target group, for target group, keep the default New Target Group. For a name, type a name for the target group. For target type, select Instance to register targets by instance ID, IP to register IP addresses, and Lambda function to register a Lambda function. Optionally, if the target type is instance or IP, modify the port and protocol as needed. Optionally, if the target type is Lambda function, enable health checks as needed. For health checks, keep the default health check settings. Choose Next, Register Targets. To register targets by instance ID, for instances, select one or more instances. Type the instance listener port and then choose Add to Registered. When you have finished registering instances, choose Next, Review. To create the load balancer, on the Review page, choose Create. After the load balancer is created, choose Close. Test your load balancer. When a client sends a request to your load balancer, the load balancer routes the request to one of its registered instances. Verify that your instances are registered with a load balancer. From the Target Groups page, select your target group, and then choose the Targets tab. If the state of your instances is initial, it's possible that they're still registering. When the state of your instances is healthy, they are ready for use. After your instances are ready, you can test your load balancer as follows. From the Load Balancers page, select your load balancer. On the Description tab, locate the DNS name. This name has the following form. In a web browser, paste the DNS name for the load balancer into the address bar and press Enter. You'll see your website displayed. Refresh repeatedly to see the different instances. Note that deleting a load balancer does not affect its registered targets. For example, your EC2 instances continue to run and are still registered to their target groups. To delete a load balancer using the console, open the Amazon EC2 console. On the navigation pane, under Load Balancing, choose Load Balancers. Select the load balancer and then choose Actions, Delete. When prompted for confirmation, choose Yes, Delete. If a target group is not referenced by any actions, you can delete it. Deleting a target group does not affect the targets registered with the target group. If you no longer need a registered EC2 instance, you can stop or terminate it. To delete a target group using the console, open the Amazon EC2 console. On the navigation pane, under Load Balancing, choose Target Groups. Select the target group and choose Actions Delete. When prompted for confirmation, choose Yes. To terminate your instance, in the navigation pane, choose Instances. In the list of instances, select the instance. Choose Actions, Instance Date, Terminate. Choose Yes Terminate when prompted for confirmation. Amazon EC2 shuts down and terminates your instance. After your instance is terminated, it remains visible on the console for a short while, and then the entry is deleted. Thanks for watching. Please give a thumbs up to this video to encourage us, and share this video with your friends and colleagues. Also, subscribe to this channel, AWS By Doing, and we will update you regularly with our latest and greatest offerings. Write in a comment of what you liked and how we can improve. Happy cloud computing, and we will see you again in the next episode from the AWS By Doing team.